Today's episode is very different to all the previous ones, and I'll tell you why. So last week I was at a networking event, and it was all people from the events background. So I thought it would be a good idea for me to go connect with other, professionals from the industry, see what everyone's up to. And something interesting happened while I was there. We sat around a round table, we shared some ideas, we discussed what it's like being in the events industry, what kind of thing everybody's working on, what our struggles are, how people are dealing with burnout and things like that. And I actually got very excited at the discussion of burnout because I felt like it's very relevant to the kind of things I talk about on this podcast. So I had my little chance to speak while I was there as well. When I left and came home, I actually felt, and I'm going to be very honest, I actually felt really shit. I felt like I was in a room full of people that seemed to be doing really well, that were very successful, that were achieving things that maybe I also aspire to achieve, or were doing things differently. And it just got me thinking, and I started to compare my life, and I know I shouldn't do that. And I started comparing myself to other people in the room and started to think, okay, if they're achieving so and so in their business, and they're all from the events world as well, which is, I've been in that industry for more than 15 years. And I thought to myself, why have I not done that? Why have I not achieved these things? And why am I feeling like I should have done more? I should have achieved more. I should have had more financial success. My business should have looked a certain way. We should be generating certain amount of leads a month, and we should be turning over X amount of revenue. And I got into that whole comparison cycle, and I'm not going to lie, it completely took me down. And on a side note, this has been a bit of a theme for the last few months, not me comparing myself to others, but me having a really shit day at least once a month. When I look back at it, and I've been talking to my wife about it, it coincides with the full moon usually. Every month there's a full moon, right? So it just so happens that on the full moon or new moon, I end up feeling really crap, and I end up feeling emotional, comparing myself to other people. And it's not something you would usually hear me share on camera. But this is how I felt last week. So what I did, because I was feeling crap, I didn't know what to do or what to focus on. Like, I couldn't focus. So I just kind of had a brain dump and wrote all these things that I was feeling into like a post, and I created a little reel and I just posted it online. Maybe that's the right thing to do, maybe it isn't, I don't know. I just did it. And after I'd done it, I posted it on like Instagram, posted it on TikTok, and I just forgot about it. I got it out of my head, and then the rest of the time I thought, you know what, I'm gonna channel this energy into something useful, because I was feeling crap about my achievements in my career. I thought, you know what, let me just channel this energy into work. So I just put my head down and started working for the rest of the day. Anytime I feel like I don't know what I need to do, I just pick up something that I know I should be working on, and I'll start doing that. Or I'll just meditate if I want to shut the world out. So I put my energy into work, and I woke up the next day. I was so surprised when I opened my TikTok. I think it was like 15,000 views on the video, but what really surprised me was all the engagement on that video. I was just shocked by how many people felt the same as I felt. And it was a bit of a relief knowing that, okay, I'm not the only one feeling this way. But I felt like I could just take a sigh and breathe, thinking, wow, so many people feel this. Like, nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the real stuff that they're dealing with or feeling. We all put on this perfect version of ourselves that we like to present to the world. And that moment, I was being imperfect. That moment, I chose to be raw and real, and I chose to put out all my vulnerabilities and everything that I was feeling that I wouldn't ordinarily say, maybe even to a friend, let alone on camera. I just felt like, wow, there's so many people who feel this, and why does nobody talk about it? Welcome back to Daily Habits. I'm Sukh Sapra, and today we're going to talk about something very different. So I'm going to read you guys the caption that I wrote in the video. Nobody told me my 40s would feel like this. I kind of listed out like seven points. So I'm going to elaborate on these points that I made. So point number one, I still don't feel like I have it all together. I thought 40 would feel settled. It doesn't. I'm still figuring out the business, the balance, and myself. It's very true, because I turned 40 in November last year. When I think about it, I always envision that my life would be in a certain place. I would have achieved certain accolades and, certain success in my life and my career by now. And there's two sides of the coin. On some level, when you think about it, you think, okay, no, you know what? I've turned out all right. My life's okay. Things are in place. I have my health. I have my family. I have relationships. Work is moving. Things are happening. And, ultimately what you put in is what you're going to get out. And that's probably more of the sound advice or sound thing you would tell yourself. But sometimes I just feel like, nah, man, at 40, I thought, I'll be a multi-millionaire. I'll be driving a certain car. I'd, live in a certain part of the world. And those things haven't happened. So this is what I meant by I thought 40 would feel settled. It doesn't. Like here I am, like I'm juggling several things. I have my DJ identity and my business in the events sector, and that's thriving and it's doing well. But I'm also like taking on this journey of being a coach, and now I'm starting like this podcast. So I've got like 3 different vehicles that I'm trying to figure out and make them all work together. And I never thought I'd be doing this at 40. I thought, by 40, I'd have like one business. It will be the main like income driver. It will do everything for me and the family. And I'll work Monday to Friday. I'll have the weekends off and, live like a normal life. Although, it depends on your definition of normal. So I guess this is what I was alluding to when I said I thought life would feel settled at 40, and it doesn't. But off the back of that, I feel like I wouldn't change anything. Like doing this excites me. Doing this podcast, speaking to people when I'm working with them on a one-to-one basis and understanding what people are going through or what their challenges are and what they want to overcome, that really excites me. I love having those conversations. I equally love when I'm behind the DJ booth and the crowd is rocking and I just literally feel like I got the crowd in the palm of my hands where no matter what I played, I'm going to get a reaction. All these parts of my life that I'm currently involved in, I wouldn't want to change it. I absolutely love what I do. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but I genuinely do because that's what keeps bringing me back. Point number 2, I compare myself online more than I'd like to admit. This is very true. And I'm sure it's not just true for me. I'm sure that there are many of us out there that do this because social media has created that. Before, we lived in a world where, I don't know, we knew probably like maybe 1,000 people within our network. So like friends and friends of friends and their relatives, etc. You knew people in your neighborhood and maybe within a 5 or 10 mile radius, and you knew people at work. Before, if I was to compare my life, I would compare my life to people who I've come in contact with. Or you would compare it with like a celebrity you see on TV, which that would be insane to compare your life to a celebrity. So you'd only compare your life to people who you've come in contact with or know of, and you'd only know of them if you had seen them somewhere, met them, heard about them through a friend, etc. Whereas what's happened through social media is that I can now compare my life to 500 million people simply because they exist online. And now me watching them do what they do makes me feel a lack in me because suddenly I feel like, oh, if they're driving this car and they're my age, then surely I should be driving that car. Or if they've achieved so much success in their life doing the same thing that I do, then I should be achieving that success. Why have I not achieved that? So you get into this cycle of comparing yourself. So when I wrote that in the caption, that's what I was trying to say. And I know I just probably don't speak for myself. I do end up comparing my life to people online more than I would like to. Do I do it every day? No. But do I use social media every day? Do I go on Instagram and TikTok or YouTube, whatever, every day? Yes, I do. Mostly to create and produce and share content, but I also do obviously consume content on there as well. And within those snippets, it does leave an imprint in your psyche where maybe not at that specific moment, at some point throughout your day or throughout that week, you do end up comparing yourself to what you see online. When I left that room last week, that networking event, I was comparing myself to them. I was thinking, okay, these are all professionals from the event industry who seemed to have achieved maybe more than I have. I was like, why have I not achieved this? Or why have I not done the things I knew I should have done? Or why have I not done these things in business? It should be a no-brainer. Why did I not think of it? Why did I not do this? Point number 3, my circle got quiet. No fights, no fallout, just everyone deep in their own lives. This is 1000% true for me. Like my circle, like for 95% of my life is pretty much my wife and my children. Because at this specific time in my life, that's pretty much all I need. I speak to my brother every day. I speak to my sister. I catch up with my friends on the phone. But like the way I would go and meet friends or go out of my way to, go on a night out with the lads or make plans with friends, with colleagues, etc., to go out, maybe go to the pub or have a drink, that's almost down to zero. what's keeping me here is far more important. What's keeping me kind of anchored or locked into my work or routine or things that I'm focusing on just feel like they carry more weight for me right now in this phase of my life. So I need to be here. This is what I need to do. The podcast requires my focus right now. My work requires my focus right now. My clients require my focus right now. And that's okay because even that goal is meaningful to me. Not in a bad way. I know my friends will always be there. I don't take them for granted. We catch up very regularly, but we don't see each other as often as we once did. Point number 4, I stayed in situations longer than I should have out of loyalty, out of fear maybe, or out of not wanting to let people down. I told myself it would sort itself out, but it didn't. This one, I don't know how many people it's true for. It's definitely very true for me because I have put myself in situations sometimes that are probably less than ideal, thinking that, okay, you have to go through hard things to, succeed, or you have to be there for people sometimes, even when they've not been there for you. I've stayed in situations sometimes, even in like business dynamics, longer than I should have. I feel like sometimes if it was somebody else in my situation, I can't be too specific here because it's quite personal. Maybe I should be specific here because the whole point of this is to be personal. I was going through a major business change. It involved other people and also money. I stayed in that situation far longer than someone else in my shoes would have, simply because I felt like that's what a loyal person does. Like, you don't let someone down when they need you the most. Sometimes you have to carry the weight of other people. And I just think like, you know what? That's all bullshit. You have to look after yourself and your household and your family first, especially if there's a repeating pattern of those people or that person consistently relying on you or telling you one thing and doing another, which is precisely what was happening. But I still stayed in that situation thinking this is how a business partner or a friend or an associate would behave. They would stay in the situation, they would stay with them to help them out while they see this through, when actually the very thing that they were seeing through was something that they chose to put themselves in without my permission, without consulting with me. So why should I have to bear the brunt of that? But I did for a long time, and I shouldn't have. I guess having better boundaries in place goes a long way, especially for your mental peace. I know that I was having so many conversations in my head, but not having it with that person because of the expectation I felt they would have of me. But that expectation I was just placing on myself. It actually takes such a big weight off even sharing it because something like this has happened to me before as well. So even for me, I guess the lesson that I've learned here is that I need to have better boundaries for myself and respect my mental peace, and also respect how it affects my circle, i.e., myself, my wife, my children, and the immediate circle around me, because what happens to me directly affects them. So I guess what I learned through this process was that I need to be a little bit more selfish so that I can take care of those around me as well. Being a millennial who's still building feels weird sometimes. We were supposed to have it figured out by now. Nobody told us it would still feel this open-ended at 40. Yeah, I feel like as millennials, we've seen probably like, I wouldn't say the most amount of changes, but we've seen a lot of technological advancements. Like, we've moved through the season so quickly that it almost like the time we grew up in didn't prepare us for the time that we live in now. So sometimes I do feel like that. Having said that, I do feel like we are in unprecedented times and there's so much opportunity now that didn't exist when we were growing up. Was life simpler then? Absolutely. Were we happy? Yes, I think we were very happy with like less. But equally, there's so much more that's available now in so much more abundance that, the internet and technology has created so much opportunity for, like, for example, for me to be able to do this. Growing up in the 90s, there was no way I could think of doing something like this. The insecurity doesn't go away. You just get better at not letting it drive. I still doubt myself, still overthink, still have hard days. The difference now is I have the habits and structure to move anyway. That's really true for me. Every day is different. You do wake up thinking, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Like, I'm 40. Should I be pursuing something that I have no experience in? But then, isn't that how all things start? Isn't that how you start your first job? Isn't that how you go into a career you know nothing about? Just only because maybe you got a piece of like paper, a degree from uni to tell you that, okay, you'll be all right at this. There is no problem with doubting yourself. It's just not letting that doubt get to you to a point where you don't take any action. Like, there's always doubt. Every time you start something, like before me even thinking about doing this podcast, I actually started a podcast 3 years ago. I didn't follow through with it. I even recorded like 6 episodes, I believe. I had guests on and I doubted myself, thinking, will this resonate with people? Will anyone find value from this? And then I didn't end up publishing it because I felt like it wasn't good enough. So I'm not going to put my name on something that I didn't feel was worthy of being put out there. Having said that, I still doubt myself sometimes. Like, is the information I'm sharing, is it landing? Do people resonate with it? But when I go out and when I speak to people and end up having conversations, even when I go to, for example, events and I speak to certain people, a lot of the times we'll end up actually talking about the podcast or the things that I'm talking about in my Instagram reels about habits and discipline and consistency. We rarely talk about the event. That reinforces that, okay, no, Sukh, you're in the right direction. Just keep going. So doubt very much always remains there. The one thing that helps overcome doubt is just giving yourself more confidence in the thing that you're trying to do. So if you're trying to accomplish something at work, the best way to overcome doubt is to do it. Do it and get the result, because the result will then prove to you that actually you were okay at it. The doubt was just the barrier that you had to break through. And that goes for everything in life. Even going to the gym or building a certain kind of physique, we often feel a doubt in the beginning thinking, oh, am I really going to be able to achieve this? But it's not until you go all in, start training, start eating clean, start looking at your diet, start looking at your recovery. And when you achieve the result, guess what? The doubt goes, because the proof is in the pudding. Still overthink. This is very much a symptom of the times that we live in, overthinking, because there's so much information available. I think we consume somewhere around like more than 70 gigabytes of data per day. Think about that. How much data are we consuming in a day? So of course we're going to overthink, because we're actually consuming so much. It's going to cause us to overthink. But also overthinking things that we know we should be doing. And I feel like the best way to overcome overthinking sometimes is just deciding. Just decide if you're going to do it or not. If you want to go to the gym, just decide. If you want to eat clean, just decide before. It removes the choice. You've already said that you're not going to have it. So now there's no choice. Don't do it. The thing about overthinking is that it's going to be there regardless. You just got to get on with it and do it. And one of the things that I've instilled in my life that helps me, I guess, overthink less or think less is meditation. Anytime I feel like my mind is racing, it's like thoughts on thoughts on thoughts. The practice that I always return to is meditation. And I just cannot tell you the benefits. Words are not enough to kind of list benefits of meditation for me personally in my life, having lived through the experience, because it instantly just changes your state. When I sit down to meditate, even if I can't get into my meditation, I will do a breath work. I'll do a breath work for 5 minutes, and internally it changes my state. And that breath work then allows my mind to quieten down. And the mind's job is to think. The mind is going to think. We shouldn't expect our mind to shut down, because you wouldn't want your heart to stop beating. You'll be dead. In the same way, your mind will always think. It's what are the repetitive thoughts. So meditation allows you to come to a place of stillness and go inwards. And for me, anytime I feel like I'm overthinking, or if there's a certain level of anxiety towards something, meditation always allows me to go back to a neutral place where I'm not overthinking, where I'm not rushed with a million thoughts, where I can take a breath, think about my next step, and then move forward. Or maybe not even think about the next step. Maybe let the thought come to me rather than me trying to chase a thought. And then finally, I wrote, nobody actually has it sorted. Everyone's learning on the job. Some people are quieter about the uncertainty, and that's okay. I think that's true because, on day one, even if you look at the giants or, really successful people like Cristiano Ronaldo or David Beckham or Michael Jordan, Elon Musk, whoever you want to name, they didn't have it figured out on day one. They were also learning on the job. So that same rule applies to even me. And I guess the reason why I wrote that is maybe I wanted to end my caption on a high and leave it on a positive note rather than on a downer. And then I closed it with, you're not late, you're not behind, you're just human, doing your best in a life nobody prepared you for. That's it. This is our first take on life in this physical form. Spiritually, we may have been here before. I truly believe that our spirit goes through many lifetimes and we keep coming back to learn the lessons that it didn't learn the previous time. I'm still trying to figure out what my lesson is in this lifetime. But we're all having a go for the first time at life, in this life. So, let's not be so harsh on ourselves. Let's not be so hard. It's all a game. When you think about it, every time I get better at something, there's a new level to unlock. Every time I progress in something, a bigger challenge arrives. And it often reminds me of when I used to play Streets of Rage on Sega Mega Drive. Like, I think there were 8 levels, and every time you'd get to the end of one level, you beat the boss. But then when you would get to the next level, there will be a bigger beast, a bigger boss to beat. And I feel life works the same way. Every time you overcome something, guess what? There's a bigger obstacle now that you got to overcome. Every time you unlock a new level, there's another level to be unlocked. I often try and keep that at the back of my mind whenever things get serious, because then I think, okay, relax. It's just a game. Do your best, and that's all you can do. And it's funny, like from when I started speaking earlier in this episode to now, I feel like my mood has shifted simply because of the things that I'm sharing. I'm going to read some of the comments that people left on this. I couldn't reply fully, like 1 or 2 words didn't do justice to the comments. So one of the first comments I want to read out was by someone on TikTok named SheFame. And this is what they wrote. They wrote, "I thought I was the only one feeling this way. Thank you for sharing." That comment really stopped me, because that sentence, "I thought I was the only one," showed up in different forms across many of the replies. And it points to something I think is genuinely important, because we're all walking around with this private experience of, not having it figured out. And because nobody talks about this publicly, social media is just a highlight reel for most of us. We're conditioned to project confidence and progress, but a lot of times we assume that everyone else is doing fine and we're just the exception. Well, this kind of just reminded me that, you know what, we're not the exception. We're all the same, actually. And here's what I came to understand about that, is that the isolation of feeling like you're the only one who's struggling is often worse than the struggle itself. And the moment someone says "me too" out loud, something just releases. It just makes you feel like, okay, you're not broken, you're just human. And there are a lot of us in this together. This comment got the most likes, and it was, "As long as you have your health, that's all that matters." And then someone else replied to that comment saying, "You are getting old when health is your number one priority." While it's perfectly understandable, not something we worry about in our 20s. I've been thinking about that one because that one resonated so widely with everyone. Because on the surface, it just sounds like another cliche, another platitude, something that your grandparents will tell you. But I don't think that's why people liked it. I think people liked it because it is a reframe. Because when you're caught up in whether you've built the right business, or whether you're ahead of other people, or whether you're behind, or whether you thought you'd be at this age, that comment cuts through all of that noise, because it just kind of humanizes it. And it says, you're measuring yourself against the wrong things. And I think that's so true, because, health is not just physical. It's about being present. It's about being able to show up for our loved ones. It's about having energy and capacity to still stay in the game, whatever the game is. And I'll be honest, this one, lands differently for me as well, since getting serious about my habits. Because before I had structure around sleep, or around movement, or around what I was putting into my body, I was running on empty all of the time. I was in the game technically, but I wasn't really present in it. So the habits aren't the point. The presence is the point. The habit is just what creates the conditions for it. So if someone in your life says, "As long as you have health," don't dismiss it as a cliche. Sit with it, because they might be pointing at the only thing that actually matters. And this actually showed up last week when I was sat in that room networking with these other entrepreneurs and founders. Mutually, we all agreed that, okay, there's these kind of 4 pillars that as humans we aspire to have or strive to get to. And I've shared these before, but it was health and wellness, it was family and relationships, it was work and money. The 4th one for me is spirituality. So the person that was facilitating the round table, he went around the table and said, "Okay, you're on a boat, your boat's going to sink. You can only pick 2 of the 4. What are you picking?" And unanimously, everybody picked health and family. And so that just goes to show, and it's so synonymous with this comment that this person has made, because at the end of it, all we really want is to be able to live another day, and to be able to have a meaningful connection with our loved ones and our friends and our family and people who mean the most to us, people who give us meaning. That's it. So there's no doubt why this comment landed with everybody, because it makes total sense. If I could go back and speak to my younger self, my life would be so different. And I replied, "You have now, do it now." So if I could go back, the thought is one I understand completely. We all have it. The decision we'd unmake, or the conversation we'd have earlier, or the thing we'd start sooner. And there's nothing wrong with that reflection. As long as it's done well, it's very useful. It tells you what you actually value. But it becomes a trap when it turns into a reason not to act. Or when "I wish I'd started at 25" becomes just a justification for not starting now, not starting when you're 40. Or when the regret about the past bleeds into inaction into the present. And here's what I genuinely believe. I feel like I believe the version of you that exists right now, with everything you've been through, every mistake you've made, every situation you've stayed in too long, every hard lesson, that version is more equipped than the younger version ever was. And you don't just feel it because you're comparing your life in to an imaginary version of yourself who didn't make those decisions. You can't go back, but you do have now. And now is all that we have. Now is the whole game. What would you tell your younger self? Tell that to yourself now. If I could go back and tell my younger self what I should be doing, I would tell him, don't overthink and don't doubt yourself. And even if you do, just go for it, because the results will come as long as you do the work. And once you have the results, the doubt will disappear. The overthinking will disappear, because guess what? You prove to yourself that you can do the thing that you were scared to do. That's it. It's as simple as that. Somebody else wrote, what I've learned is that everyone makes it up as they're going along. Some of us are better at bullshitting than another. Keep fighting your fight. And I wrote, well said. But honestly, I could have said a lot more, because this is one of those liberating things to actually internalize. The people who look like they have it figured out, the ones whose businesses we admire, or the ones whose life look like they're polished, who seem to be moving through the world with like total confidence, they are mostly also just improvising. They are making decisions with incomplete information. They are also learning as they go. Some of us are just better at making improvisation look like a plan. And I'm not saying this to diminish anyone's success. Real achievement is real, but the performance of certainty that we see online or in meetings or on social events, that's often exactly that. It's a performance. Behind it is the same uncertainty, is the same doubt, it's the same, am I doing this right kind of feeling. The difference between people who move forward and people who stay stuck usually isn't that the first group has more certainty, is that they've just learned to act despite the uncertainty, to make the call without all the information, or to keep moving even when the path isn't clear. That's not confidence, that's courage, but it looks the same from the outside. And then somebody else wrote, I want to really start living in my 40s. And I wrote, why not now? And I really meant it. I really meant those 3 words as a genuine challenge, not just a like kind of a throwaway response, because it's like, what are you waiting for? Not rhetorically. I mean, as a real question, what's the specific thing you believe needs to happen before you can really start living? Like, what's the condition you feel like is unmet still? Because in my experience, and also in the experience of a lot of people that I've worked with, there's always a condition. It's always like, I'll start when the business is more stable, or I'll start when the kids are older, or when I've lost the weight, or when things calm down, or when I feel ready. And here's the truth about that, is that things don't calm down. Ready is not a feeling that just arrives one day. The stability you're waiting for is something you have to build. It's not something that will just appear. Right, this one was quite a lengthy comment, and it was, age is just a number, you're always growing and reflecting. Trauma destroyed almost 20 years of my life, and my health has been affected, even with some mobility issues. But I've started my bucket list for all the things that I haven't managed in my life. It's liberating and helps to put me first finally. My mission is now to travel the world, and I've started and met so many beautiful friends who lift me to the highest point in life. I thought life would begin at 40. That's not true. It begins when you allow it. Enjoy every moment and believe that you will learn through the process we call life. I didn't reply to this one because I just didn't know what to say in like a comment that would be adequate enough. So I'm going to say it here. It begins when you allow it. Not when the circumstances change. Not when the trauma is fully healed. Not when your health improves, but when you allow it. That's not toxic positivity or good vibes only. That's someone who's been through something genuinely hard, and they still found the place inside themselves where they can make a decision. The decision to keep going, or to start that list, or book that trip, or let new people in their life. I don't have a framework for that. I don't have any habits to recommend. I just have so much respect. So if you're listening to this and you're in a hard place right now, or you don't have everything figured out in your life right now, I hope that comments land for you in the same way that it landed for me, because it's so true. It does begin when you allow it. So what's the theme here? What's the thing that connects all of these comments and kind of allows us to feel like we're not all feeling this in isolation, but we're all kind of going through this together? I feel like the thing was that we're all handed this version of how life was supposed to be, or how life was supposed to go by our families, or by the culture we grew up in, or the generation that we grew up in. Go get the education, build your career, hit the milestones in your life, and by X age you will have this, or by this age you will feel a certain way. But then guess what? Life happened and reality didn't match our expectations. So instead of questioning the things we were told to believe, we started to question ourselves. And that's what I was doing when I wrote that post. That's what I heard echoed back in all of these comments from people of all ages, all backgrounds, and in all stages of life. And the comment section proved that. And I feel like this is a community of people going through similar things, which is why it resonated so much with everyone. If today's episode landed for you, then share it with someone who you think might need to hear it. Not just to grow the podcast, but because someone in your life might need to know that they're not in this alone. I'm Sukh Sapra, this is Daily Habits, and I'll see you next week. And before you go, just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this. Honestly, it'll mean so much to me. I'm trying to grow this platform and bring this information that I think is valuable for everyone in this day and age. So please hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. Thank you.